Imagine a world where millions lose their lives, but a select few become billionaires. Why has war become the ultimate money-making machine for the powerful? Stick around and I'll uncover how profits in war soar, but never for people like you and me. How war became the oldest business model. War is older than banking, education, and even the written word. Long before anyone learned to keep records or build an economy, rulers understood one thing. War wasn't just power, it was opportunity. Around 2700 BCE, in the heart of Mesopotamia, the first recorded wars were fought. While these conflicts were brutal and destructive, they weren't random chaos. For the ruling elites, war became a way to expand land, control resources, and ultimately consolidate wealth. Early kings and leaders quickly realized that wars could pay off like nothing else, especially when the suffering happened far from their palaces. This contrast between the devastation of war and its use as an economic lever isn't subtle. The same wars that crushed countless lives generated income streams for rulers and merchants alike. Meanwhile, farmers were conscripted and entire towns were left in ruins, all while the elites celebrated victory with new resource flows. Over time, this process of war profiteering began shaping the very structure of governance. In ancient Egypt, for instance, military campaigns were directly tied to the wealth of the pharaoh. Conquered territories sent tributes of gold, livestock, and slaves back to the ruling class. And it wasn't just limited to Egypt. Across the ancient world, victorious nations expanded trade by controlling key regions through force, ensuring that war paid dividends beyond the battlefield. Governments, even in the earliest forms, showed a preference for directing resources to war rather than improving the day-to-day lives of their people. Historical evidence reveals that city-states like Babylon spent enormous amounts on military ventures, sometimes at the expense of basic infrastructure or public welfare. Massive walls and defensive fortifications were funded, while many citizens lived in poverty. Why? Because rulers understood the return on investment. War didn't just defend borders, it enriched those in command. This prioritization speaks volumes. It planted the seeds for a pattern that persists today, where military spending often takes priority over education, healthcare, or infrastructure. This isn't to suggest the ancient world didn't understand the consequences of war. For ordinary people, war wasn't profitable, it was catastrophic. Families lost fathers and sons on the battlefield, farms were burned, entire communities were displaced. Yet those in power weren't bearing these burdens. Instead, they incentivized them. By promising land or spoils to soldiers and commanders, leaders like Alexander the Great grew empires large enough to dominate the ancient economy while funneling its wealth upward. The cycle of devastation and enrichment continued, and over time, it evolved into something even bigger. Fast forward through history, and this system of incentivizing war for profit has only scaled up. Governments may have changed, but the tendency toward military-first spending hasn't. What began in the ancient world as a leader's ambition or a kingdom's survival soon became a rigid structure, deeply embedded into the way societies operated. This foundation is crucial for understanding how, in the modern era, war shifted from a tool of conquest to a formalized industry, one where financial incentives drive decision-making at unimaginable levels. The war industry didn't emerge overnight. The groundwork was laid thousands of years ago by rulers who saw war as a business venture, not just a tool for survival. Today, the methods of profiteering may look different, but the underlying incentives remain remarkably the same. What ancient kings pursued through conquest, modern corporations execute on balance sheets. And while governments no longer craft shields and spears, the production of modern weaponry has proved to be just as lucrative, if not more. The systemic pursuit of profit that began in ancient Mesopotamia set the stage for one of the biggest, most persistent industries in human history. The blueprint: how modern war profiteering works. What if I told you companies profit from war no matter which side wins? It sounds unthinkable, but this is exactly how modern war profiteering works. Forget loyalty, forget morality. Profit is the only priority. War isn't just a conflict between nations. It's an elaborate system designed to generate massive wealth for a select few, often by exploiting taxpayer money, influencing global politics, and ensuring conflicts remain profitable regardless of their outcome. One of the clearest examples of companies making money from both sides of a war is the Iran-Iraq War of the 1980s. For nearly a decade, these two nations engaged in one of the bloodiest conflicts of the 20th century, fueled by weapons sold by businesses from at least 26 different countries. American, European, and even Soviet manufacturers knowingly supplied arms to both sides. Why would they do that? Because for these businesses, loyalty wasn't tied to a single flag, it was tied to revenue. Every bullet fired and every tank deployed meant more orders, bigger contracts, and higher profits. It didn't matter who won or lost. What mattered was that the war continued. This both sides strategy isn't the only way war generates wealth. Cost-plus contracts are one of the most insidious methods used today. Here's how they work. Under these contracts, the government agrees to cover the costs of a project and add a guaranteed percentage of those costs as profit for the contractor. On the surface, it might sound fair. A company gets reimbursed for their work and makes a little money. But in reality, this system encourages wasteful spending because higher costs mean higher profits. Let's say a company efficiently completes a project for $1 billion. With a typical 5% margin, they earn $50 million. But if they inflate that project to $4 billion, their profit jumps to $200 million. This provides no incentive to save money. In fact, it rewards inefficiency. Critics have long argued that cost-plus contracts create a gold rush for defense contractors, allowing them to bleed public funds dry with inflated budgets. This creates a dangerous feedback loop. First, corporations fund politicians' campaigns. Those politicians then vote for increased military budgets. Defense companies win massive contracts with that money, and a percentage of those profits goes right back into funding the next election cycle. It's a self-reinforcing system that ensures the profits keep rolling in year after year. Over time, this process has turned the US military into a spending juggernaut. The defense budget has nearly doubled since the early 2000s, rising from approximately $400 billion a year to over $700 billion annually. And while corporations cash in on this tsunami of taxpayer money, most citizens have no say in how their taxes are being spent. This system ensures that the financial benefits of war remain concentrated at the top, while the financial burdens fall on the public. Consider lobbying not just as a way to protect corporate interests, but as a tool shaping how wars begin and how long they last. By influencing lawmakers, defense contractors can practically guarantee conflicts last just long enough to meet profit goals. A longer war means more orders for ammunition, vehicles, infrastructure, everything a modern military consumes in battle. For companies in this industry, peace isn't profitable, but conflict is an endless payday. And the worst part, the benefits don't trickle down. War financially rewards the elite few and leaves ordinary people footing the bill. During the Iran-Iraq War, we saw how companies made money from both sides of a conflict. And during the Iraq War, we saw how taxpayer money was funneled straight into the pockets of defense executives under the guise of supporting the troops. This system isn't accidental, it's intentional, calculated, and carefully crafted to ensure the profits of war always outweigh the costs for someone else. These strategies, arming any side willing to buy, inflating costs to reap massive profits, and lobbying governments to maintain high levels of defense spending, are not accidents of history. They're part of a blueprint designed to prioritize corporate wealth over public good. And while these contracts, lobbying initiatives, and arms deals pull in billions, they create an economic burden that falls squarely on the shoulders of ordinary people. How much does this actually cost the rest of us? That's the next question. The hidden cost. Who pays for war? While corporations rake in billions from war, you might never stop to think, how much does it cost you personally? The truth is, the cost of war lands squarely on the shoulders of ordinary citizens. Through taxes, inflation, and lost opportunities, the hidden price you pay is far greater than you might expect. And it's one you keep paying long after the conflict ends. Let's break it down. Every year, the average US taxpayer contributes over $2,800 to military spending. That's not a hidden fee or a distant line item. It's coming straight out of your pocket. Consider all the places that money could go instead: healthcare, education, infrastructure, or even simply staying in your wallet. In a sense, inflation becomes a backdoor tax, a hidden cost you pay every single day, whether you notice it or not. This sneakier fashion of taxation erodes the purchasing power of every dollar you earn, making basic necessities harder to afford. And while corporations profit handsomely from contracts and arms deals, you're left paying more at the grocery store or struggling to cover rent. But inflation is only one part of the economic burden. The problem runs much deeper, especially when you look at where military spending diverts resources from. Consider what happens every time government budgets make room for defense increases. Something else has to take a hit. Programs like public healthcare, education, and social services frequently lose out when the lion's share of funding is funneled into defense. For example, in the United States, the military accounts for the largest single category of government spending. It's prioritized above issues like crumbling infrastructure or skyrocketing healthcare costs. The economic trade-off becomes painfully clear. The more money poured into war, the fewer resources are available to invest in improving the lives of ordinary citizens. The numbers paint a stark picture. Imagine what $2,800 per taxpayer could achieve if redirected toward reducing medical debt, eliminating student loan interest, or modernizing public schools. These are the kinds of investments that create lasting benefits for society at large. But with so much public money tied up in military contracts, these opportunities are missed year after year. Meanwhile, the corporations cashing in on these contracts, whether by manufacturing weapons, building military bases, or providing private security, pay a very different price. For them, wars aren't sacrifices, they're opportunities. Taxpayer money funds their operations, feeds their profits, and drives up shareholder returns, all while ordinary people bear the real financial weight. This creates an economic loop that consistently pulls resources from public pockets and deposits them into private hands. Here's how it works. Governments allocate billions to defense contractors using taxpayer dollars. Those contractors collect massive payments and distribute a portion of their profits to executives and investors. The executives and investors, in turn, lobby for policies that ensure continued high levels of military spending. It's a self-reinforcing cycle designed to keep the profits flowing upward while regular citizens foot the bill through higher taxes, inflated costs of living, and weakened public services. The system is as elegant as it is brutal. You pay, they profit. What's even less visible is the opportunity cost. Every dollar spent keeping this system alive is a dollar that could be used to address real societal needs. If even a fraction of military spending were redirected toward alternative investments, renewable energy, affordable housing, or research into curing diseases, the benefits would ripple across generations. Instead, the focus remains locked on maintaining a steady flow of money to the defense industry. This isn't a coincidence, it's a structural choice, a decision that prioritizes corporate wealth over public welfare, no matter the trade-offs. So, while defense executives cash their bonuses and shareholders collect their dividends, take a moment to ask yourself, who really pays for war? The answer is the same every time. It's you. You pay through your taxes, you pay through inflation, you pay by losing access to better opportunities for education, healthcare, and infrastructure. And what you pay pales in comparison to the windfall profits generated for a select few. This gap, the one between those who benefit and those who bear the cost, isn't just unfair. It's baked into the system, an intentional byproduct of how modern wars are funded. But what keeps this system in place? Part of the answer lies in the way war is sold to the public, and often it all starts with the stories we're told about it. The media's role, selling war to the public. What if the news you trust is just another player in the war business? From the headlines you read to the breaking news segments on your screen, media outlets don't just report on war, they actively shape how you see it. And when it comes to justifying military actions, the way a story is told can be just as powerful as the facts behind it. But here's the thing, the media doesn't operate in a vacuum. Behind the scenes, there are connections to politicians, corporations, and yes, the defense industry. One of the media's most effective tools is the power of framing. It's not a matter of lying or fabricating events. It's about selecting what gets highlighted and what gets ignored. Take how different outlets cover a single military action. A left-leaning outlet might emphasize humanitarian consequences, civilian casualties, refugee crises, or the long-term destruction caused by bombing campaigns. Meanwhile, a right-leaning outlet may focus on justifying the same actions as necessary to restore global stability or secure national interests. Both are talking about the same event, yet the framing pulls public opinion in wildly different directions. For example, during debates on military interventions, some media outlets push narratives of imminent threats. A rogue state with weapons of mass destruction or a terrorist group poised to strike, because fear keeps viewers engaged, and fear generates ratings. But fear isn't just a tool to keep viewers tuned in, it also plays directly into the hands of the defense industry. The more instability the media emphasizes, the easier it becomes for governments to justify ballooning military budgets. An unstable world requires more weapons, more intelligence gathering, and more boots on the ground, or so the argument goes. Media networks don't just amplify this insecurity for free, they have their own financial incentives. Many outlets rely on advertising revenue, and some of their largest advertisers are companies tied directly to the defense industry. A major network covering war might run ads for defense contractors in the same broadcast, creating a subtle, and sometimes not so subtle, alignment of interests. The line between what informs people and what sells weaponry can quickly blur. It's not just advertising revenue either. Media corporations share many of the same political and corporate actors that influence policy about war itself. Defense companies spend hundreds of millions lobbying Washington, and part of that influence filters back through media coverage. Politicians supported by these corporations show up on news panels, talk shows, and interviews, driving narratives directly to the public. The result is a feedback loop where the interests of media, government, and defense contractors align, each benefiting from greater military spending. The manipulation isn't always obvious. Tools like ground news let you compare how various media outlets report the same story, revealing the political leanings embedded in each version. Why does this matter? Because it shows intent. It lays bare how some outlets focus on painting certain leaders or nations as existential threats, while others spin tales of moral responsibility and intervention for the greater good. By analysing these angles, you can see how public opinion is steered in specific directions. And the more divided or uncertain the public becomes, the easier it is to sell the idea that military solutions are the only solutions. This system thrives because it exploits human emotions. Fear and anger make for compelling television, and they're magnets for engagement, whether through cable news broadcasts or viral social media posts. Once a conflict becomes defined in moral, existential terms, us versus them, or good versus evil, it's much simpler to justify spending billions on weapons contracts and military deployments. Defense companies rely on this tension. Every missile fired needs replacing. Every troop deployed requires supplies. And none of it happens without convincing ordinary people that it's necessary, justified, even inevitable. But here's the catch. Media outlets rarely critique the broader system they're part of. While individual conflicts might receive some scrutiny, the connection between defense companies, lawmakers, and the media itself is almost never the story. Instead, attention stays directed outward, toward the villains of the moment, the latest threats. This allows the cycle to keep turning, unchecked, as the defense industry quietly rakes in profits. And the results speak for themselves. Coverage that primes the public to accept war helps secure political capital for pro-military policies. Lawmakers don't risk losing elections over unpopular defense budgets because media coverage ensures those budgets seem necessary. The public, meanwhile, ends up supporting wars they may not even understand, convinced by headlines that what's at stake is safety, security, and peace. It doesn't matter if those wars drag on for decades or fail to achieve their stated aims. Once the profits start flowing, the military-industrial complex shifts into autopilot. The media is much more than a storyteller here. It's an active participant in the system. By selecting certain narratives and omitting others, it acts as the interface between the public and the powerful, keeping war not only palatable, but often desirable. The same networks that cover military conflicts frame them in ways that ensure the cycle continues. Ultimately, the media doesn't just reflect war, it sustains it. And when you connect these dots, an unsettling picture emerges of just how well-oiled the machine truly is. Conclusion: war isn't just weapons and battles. It functions as a business model, carefully designed to enrich a select few at the expense of many. Defense contractors, policymakers, lobbyists, and media outlets all operate within a system where profit outweighs human lives. Every government dollar spent on war is a dollar diverted from improving healthcare, infrastructure, or working families' futures, leaving citizens to pay the price. So ask yourself, how does this system serve you? Challenge where your taxes go and whose interests they protect. If we never question it, will this cycle ever end? Or will we keep funding wars that offer us nothing in return?